Hi everyone, my name is Shani Evenstein. I work at Tel Aviv University, and on my free time I'm also a Wikipedian. I've combined these two passions of mine in order to create an academic course that teaches students how to contribute to Wikipedia. And throughout this course I'm going to interview key members from the Wiki community, and today I'm very happy to host Jake Olowitz from the library, from the Wikipedia library project. And let's begin by saying hi to Jake. And Jake, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone. I started editing Wikipedia in 2007 as a volunteer, and I was completely hooked. I thought it was incredibly cool that this community had organized itself, that it had its own governance, its own rules, its own policies, and that nobody had given them down from on high, that they had been evolved over time through a process of dialogue. And as a political theory and political science major, for me that was really neat. And I started editing, got really involved into editing articles, worked on articles about medicine and political movements, did some work with helping people get into the community, how to reach out to newcomers and invite them in and teach them the principles behind our community, as well as kind of the technical details. And then I switched gears and I started focusing on what is it that our experienced editors need. And the experienced editors on Wikipedia, like most researchers, need access to extremely high quality sources. And ideally they don't need to leave their house to get them. They don't need to pay for them. They don't need to subscribe or even register. They just get the access they need when they need it. And so the library program that I now run, that was started in 2012, is my way of serving the Wikipedia community, particularly its most active contributors, so that they can write without being hindered by lack of access to research or research skills.
So can you tell us a bit more about what that actually means on your day-to-day endeavors?
Sure. So there are 5 pillars of the Wikipedia library's mission, and they kind of map to what we do. The first, not necessarily most important, but kind of most notable thing that we do is we get donations from very large, very prestigious, and very expensive publishers. And we give a donation of access. So for example, JSTOR, which is an extremely popular journal archive, donated 500 accounts to Wikipedia editors. And this might be a small deal in the scope of universities that have 40,000 students, but it's a big deal for our 500 most active editors to have that kind of access. So we have partnerships with over 40, approaching 45 different publishers, most of the major publishers: Oxford University Press, Elsevier, EBSCO, Taylor and Francis, and many of these partnerships are at the moment primarily English language, although we also have partners who have content in Dutch, French, some South African languages, German, and our goal in that sense is to, I don't know why I chose this kind of military analogy, but I wanted to arm our users to the teeth with resources. Which just seems totally inappropriate, but it's just what I thought of when I conceived of this project. Like I want us to just go into battle, research battle, just ready. And so that was kind of how it got started. Actually, is a cool story, because I was doing research on my own, and I just felt like I was missing some sources about this. It was a biography article, and I called up a research aggregator called Highbeam Research, and I asked them, just, I thought, oh, I'll call them, I'll ask them for a free account, and it just hit me while I was calling, like, maybe I should ask for some of my wiki friends. And so I did. I said, would you guys be interested in giving a Wikipedia editor a free account, and maybe a couple of my colleagues? And they said, sure. Would you like 1,000? And that was the beginning of when I realized that Wikipedia held enormous power to open doors to knowledge, some of it locked up behind paywalls, and Wikipedia editors are in this position to free, so to speak, or share that knowledge with the public by summarizing it on its very, very highly read articles. So that is the paywall piece of what we do. The second major component is that we are working to create these digital library research hubs. So Wikipedia has 280 some language versions, not just the English or the Hebrew, but many other smaller languages, most of the all of the major languages in Europe and in India and in Asia. And we want to create spaces on Wikipedia that function similar to the way real libraries do, a place where you can go and get help finding a source, or ask a question about doing reference, or read a guide about how to locate sources, how to find your library even. Those kind of basic things about doing research that have been absent from Wikipedia, and it's kind of ironic that for Wikipedia has become ubiquitous and only recently ubiquitous as a reference resource and a community of researchers, but only recently had a library. So one of the key things that we're doing in, I think we're up to 11 languages so far, is building hubs where people can come and get that kind of support for doing research online. There is not really a digital library for the internet in the sense of a traditional library. Librarians have moved their websites online, but there is no internet library, and so at least we have a Wikipedia library. And there are a couple other aspects, but I'm going to save them for later. You know, we do a lot of outreach to librarians and people in the research world, and we work to promote open access as well. So I'll save that for some future questions.
Yeah, so you've just touched on, I think, one of the key things or key ideas that sort of accompany what it is that you do, and that is the tension between us being an open community and all these publishers that are very high quality, well noted, well known around the world are basically closed. So we're trying to create open knowledge, open content on a very closed academic world. So I would love to hear your thoughts about that and how the Wikipedia library is basically helping the process.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about this. So open access is the freedom to read a source, to use it, to reuse it, to modify it, and in some cases even to sell it with very limited restrictions, sometimes none, but often just giving attribution to where you got the information. And as an open access project, Wikipedia is probably the largest success of open access in history. Every one of Wikipedia's 35 million articles is free for anyone to do whatever they want with, and all they have to do is give credit to where they got it and maintain those license terms going down the line. So it is an interesting question of how can this open access project, which really is a shining light of the open access movement and the power of collaboration and openness, kind of reconcile having closed access sources as a part of it, and even further forming partnerships to get more of that access on it. And this has become, we've had a controversial debate, at least in the US, over this in the last month in response to a donation that we received from Elsevier, who is probably one of the most controversial publishers. And we look at it like this. Knowledge is an iceberg. It's enormous. It's probably not even an iceberg. It's probably a mountain of ice that connects to the bottom of the seafloor. And Wikipedia is, and anything else that's open access, is the tip of the iceberg. It's what you can see, touch, feel. It's what you can get to. There is tremendous amounts of knowledge trapped underneath Wikipedia. There's all the knowledge that's in books that are also copyrighted. And that's the book throughout history has been the most common form of knowledge, and vast majority of those are not open access. There's information that has not yet been digitized. There's information that's behind paywalls and in journals. And even behind that, you can go a level deeper. There's data. And so when people talk about open science, there's the data behind research, or they're the primary documents that informed a historical book. Being able to get to the very bottom of what we know involves going to all the way to the bottom of the iceberg. So what we're doing on Wikipedia is we're taking a little bit of that, paywalled ice, and we're moving it from underneath the surface, where you need to pay to get access to it, and we're putting a summary of that knowledge in Wikipedia where anyone can read it. So we are not liberating that content, but we are making it accessible, rather more accessible than it would be. And this is important for us on Wikipedia because we have a mission to share knowledge. We don't just have a mission to share knowledge that is open access. We have a mission to serve our 500 million monthly readers who view nearly 5 billion pages per month, that when they get there, that there's good content there. And we wish that all of the good content, all the good references were free. But we're working in the reality of a world where much of the best content, much of the best research, certainly historically, and only changing, away from that in the last couple of years, is paywalled. And so for us to try and build a comprehensive, accurate, up-to-date, reliable, useful, credible encyclopedia, we simply can't ignore those sources. And our editors need access to those sources in order to fulfill our mission of sharing the sum of all human knowledge. It's not to say that we're not also, perhaps paradoxically, working towards the goal of real open access at the same time. We just this past week, we had a great partnership with Spark, the Scholarly Publishers Access to Research Coalition, big organization that lobbies for open access policies in the US, inside government funding and universities. We did a big edit-a-thon with Spark. We're big proponents of a tool called the Open Access button, which we advertise on all of our library pages, that helps people who hit a paywall contact the author and get sent a copy. We have guides for open access, kind of libguides, that help people find and navigate open access sources, because open access sources are free for anyone to use, but you still have to locate them and know how to find them. And on that note, I want to say that Wikipedia has been quite good for open access. A study recently came out that about 45% of Wikipedia's citations were open access. And that's much, much, much higher than the scholarly literature in general. And we've done that. The study in particular noted that we've done that without a trade-off in quality. That when they looked at what we cited, open or not open, the common thread in both of them is that they were reliable. They were sources that were considered reliable according to their, their prestige, or, this metric called impact factor, which measures how often a journal is cited by other journals and that kind of thing. So we're managing to share a lot of open access content, and there's a natural bias on the internet to open access content. When you do a search, what comes up most often is free, and if it's not free, the stuff you end up clicking on and using is free because you can get to it. So we're serving a need for editors without undermining this broader movement towards open knowledge and open access, and we want to live in a world where knowledge is truly free, the whole iceberg, all the way down to the bottom. But in the meantime, we have to work with where things are. And so we're being pragmatic. It's very eyes open. We understand that what we're doing benefits publishers too. It's good for them to be cited on Wikipedia. We think that it's better for our readers to come to Wikipedia and find the best resources summarized for them than to come there and find gaps and missing information. And so that's why we do what we do, and that's how we reconcile these kind of conflicting or simultaneous aspects that are in tension.
Yeah, and on that note, you've talked a bit about publishers, but connecting it to the academic world and what it is that we do in academia, how do you see, what do you see, let me put it this way, how would you describe the role of faculty members and students as well as part of this? There's no other way of other than revolution, really, because it's
Yeah,
completely a shift of what we've known and how we did research and academic work in previous centuries. So,
sure.
what would
So
you like to see?
yeah. This is another huge part of what we are working on. The two aspects of academia that Wikipedia ties directly into is digital literacy and digital citizenship. And I'll explain what I mean by both of those. So digital literacy, in this world, access to information is easy. Finding that information and knowing how to use it, knowing how to critically evaluate it is essential. It's perhaps the most essential skill that people are coming out of their educations with. Um, at a very basic level, students, faculty, librarians, and researchers need to know how Wikipedia works, because we know that they're all using it. We know that 95% of medical students use Wikipedia, and the ones who don't are probably not telling the truth, or they use it just as a starting point, but then go find a better source, which is what we recommend, but they're using it too. And so if the majority of our future doctors are using Wikipedia, you can bet that the majority of our undergraduate college students are also using Wikipedia, and we know they are. They tell us. Everyone pretty much admits they're using it. And so part of being digitally literate involves understanding how Wikipedia works. Do you know that Wikipedia is free for anyone to edit? Do you know what makes an article qualify to be included versus not? How to evaluate the quality of articles. Wikipedia is not a monolithic thing. There are quality levels for different articles, and some of those are both marked, but some are also just intangible measures of is it well referenced? Does it have clear navigation and sections where each topic gets an appropriate amount of coverage? Is it biased or not? And so digital literacy involves becoming an intelligent consumer of Wikipedia's information, and that's essential. But the bigger dream is going from intelligent consumption to contribution. Wikipedia is a place where instead of writing your 30th research paper, which gets read by you and your professor and nobody else, and then goes in a drawer or is recycled or burned in a garbage can if you're not happy with it, students have the opportunity in their classrooms, and the Wikipedia education program has done this all over the world, to make their coursework have an impact globally. So you can work on an article, and this has happened, where you work on an article that turns out hitting the news cycle and is read by hundreds of thousands of people after you wrote it. There's a famous incident in which that happened around the Egyptian Revolution in 2011. But regardless of whether or not you're getting 100,000 page views, you're contributing something to the entire world. And it's not an understatement to say that if you write the articles for a subject on Wikipedia, that you can become the most read author on that subject in the world. And you can do it. It's not just a selfish pursuit. You can do it with this collaboration of peers. You can do it in a community where others are helping you, others are challenging you also. And so it's a really powerful excuse me, really powerful community, and the largest megaphone for knowledge that humanity has ever seen. And so there's a chance for students to contribute to that, and professors too. We don't want to leave professors out of, and faculty out of contributing, because where people have expertise is where they can be most incisive. Maybe they won't be writing articles from scratch, but maybe they'll be reviewing articles and saying, this is a little shifted in this way, or actually that fact is out of date as of last year's new study. And so there's a quality control aspect that, we might have every article in the world one day that's relevant, but they'll never all be top quality, and that will always require updating as things change because knowledge is always evolving. And so students to contribute new knowledge, experts and faculty to refine the knowledge that we already have, and a shift where the university becomes part of the knowledge production system, not just when you're writing your thesis, but throughout the entire curriculum, your entire, your entire time at school is what I think Wikipedia offers.
Excellent. This has been really interesting talking to you. I want to thank you for joining me and my students.
My pleasure.
And on a happy note, let's hope that we become this giant megaphone that you described. And the iceberg is going to be visible.
Yeah, yeah. It's
So,
an interesting analogy because we don't want the sea level to actually drop all the way to the bottom, but maybe somehow the iceberg will rise up.
let's hope for that. So
Thanks
thanks
so
so
much,
much.
Shani. It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you. Same here. Thank you.